in a multitude of ways. Number one being the jobs it creates, both at the farm level, the harvesting level, the logistics level, um, operations level like this. And typically alfalfa, like in the Imperial Valley, is grown in high unemployment areas. So I think the job benefit, the economic benefit, cash flow back to the growers to sustain farming, um, and probably the environmental benefit. I mean, furrow irrigation and irrigation that we use for alfalfa is important for the environmental component of the soil and things like that. So I think jobs, economics, environmental is a good reason to farm alfalfa down here. Well, I think overall, there's a push for exports, both in the ag sector and other industries. And I mean, if you take any ag component that this country exports, there is a water component as well. It helps with trade imbalance. It helps reposition containers that are coming over here with all these imports from Asia and other parts of the world. So alfalfa and compressed alfalfa, like I said, it adds a lot of economic value. Um, it uses water like any other export crop, so I don't understand why it should be targeted as the only export crop that uses water. And from a logistics standpoint, it really does help reposition containers on a global trade. So um, those are some key things. Well, we do both. Um, I mean, the Central California would be the domestic market. They've always been a huge buyer of alfalfa out of the Imperial Valley. But having an export market and a secondary market per se allows the farmers that maybe they don't make an export type hay to get the most value out of their farm production. So I think it helps the overall farming economy and drives more dollars back into the economy, which is good for everybody. That supports higher paying jobs. It supports more jobs. And I think anytime a farmer has more than one market per se, it's better for everybody. And to include the third party businesses that service ag and those farmers. So. I think if somebody wants to make that broad statement, which I consider to be very broad, then you have to look at all areas of the country where water is used for export crops. I don't think to target the Imperial Valley and the hay farmers and alfalfa production is a fair assessment. Like I said, every crop we export uses water in some capacity, uses resources. Um, I just don't agree with the statement. I think it's too broad and it's somewhat narrow-minded because grains, other crops grown in California, they're exported as well, and a higher percentage of those crops are exported versus alfalfa. So I think if you're going to say that about alfalfa, you have to say anything we export is exploiting water. I think technology will definitely move in that direction to lower water use. I mean, we've seen technology in a multitude of farming applications. I know growers are being very conscientious when it comes to water use. So yes, I mean, technology's moving forward on a multitude of platforms when it comes to conservation and the amount of water we use. So I don't see why it wouldn't be used in alfalfa, and I think they're using it now. I think we need to consider the job component, and we need to consider the economics, and we need to consider the environmental component of growing alfalfa in this state, not just the Imperial Valley, but in this state. Um, I think when you look at the dairy industry that the alfalfa supports, you look at the cattle industry and then the forage farming itself. I think three of those industries are the top 10 industries in all of ag in California, so we need those. And typically those are in areas with high unemployment. And I think there needs to be a professional debate on how water is used properly and how it's shared and how it's and not make alfalfa a target, the only target. Because like I said, every ag commodity that we export uses water. In times like this, when there's a drought, it's easy to pick certain targets, and I think we have to be careful. We have to use our resources so that everybody gets a fair seat at the table when it comes to use, and we just don't isolate one industry or one crop or one set of farmers as being the problem. And we've gotten through droughts before. I don't know why we can't do it again without targeting one industry. So, farming's the backbone of the state. Excuse me. It's the backbone, the economic backbone of this state. It's the economic backbone of this valley. So I think when those discussions are had with people that have a lot more power and influence than I do, it's important. So I mean, I don't think we should just throw alfalfa and water use under the bus. It has a place. It's had a place for years. So it needs to be part of the conversation, but yet you can't say it needs to go because it uses water and it's being exported. I just don't think that's fair. So it definitely has a place here and a purpose. Yes.